The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had always been a place of hidden potential. In the year 2175, that potential was about to be fully realized. Among the countless mining operations that had been established there over the decades, one particular site remained conspicuously unremarkable to outside observers, precisely as intended. Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the viewport of the command center, gazing out at the artificial cavern that had been hollowed out of asteroid 2037 X-51. The secret construction yard sprawled before him, a hive of activity that had been hidden from the prying eyes of the Galactic Federation for 50 years. Workers scurried across the skeletal framework of what appeared to be a small moon, but was in fact something far more dangerous. "Status report," Morrison said, his voice carrying the weight of 5 decades of secrecy and purpose. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter approached, her tablet displaying a complex array of systems checks. "We're at 98% completion. Admiral, the propulsion system exceeded our expectations in the last test. We're looking at approximately 30% more thrust than originally projected." Morrison nodded, allowing himself a small smile. The Federation continues to underestimate human ingenuity. Their technology restrictions were meant to keep us as their laborers, not their equals. "Their mistake," Carter replied, her eyes gleaming with quiet pride. She had spent her entire career on Project Titan, developing technologies that bypassed alien restrictions, combining human innovation with reverse-engineered alien tech. New Terra will be fully operational within 2 weeks. Commander Ryan Phillips entered the command center, his face grim. As head of intelligence operations, he rarely brought good news. "Admiral, we've intercepted a transmission from Captain Taylor. The Vorak Empire has launched a full-scale assault on the Zephyrian homeworld." Morrison's jaw tightened. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species, known for their crystalline architecture and philosophical achievements. "Casualties?" "Massive," Phillips replied. "The Federation Council has classified it as an internal affair and refuses to intervene." "Bureaucratic cowards," Morrison muttered. He had seen this pattern before, the powerful preying on the weak while the Federation stood by, citing non-interference protocols that somehow never seemed to apply when humanity pushed boundaries. "Captain Taylor is transmitting live footage. It's not good, sir." Morrison nodded to the communications officer, who brought the feed onto the main screen. The crystalline cities of Zephyr Prime burned, their once beautiful structures shattering under Vorak bombardment. In the corner of the screen, Captain Ben Taylor's face was visible, streaked with ash and horror. "The Vorak are claiming the Zephyrians violated mining rights in the Cerulean Belt," Taylor reported, his voice barely audible over the sound of explosions. "It's a fabrication. This is about the Zephyrians refusing to provide slaves for Vorak manufacturing colonies." Morrison watched in silence as the destruction continued. After a moment, he turned to his communications officer. "Contact Earth Command. Authorization Morrison Alpha 7. Tell President Williams and Colonel Parker that I recommend immediate preparation for deployment." The young officer nodded, her hands moving swiftly across her console. Morrison turned back to the viewport, looking at the massive structure that had consumed humanity's secret resources for 50 years. Project Titan, unofficially named New Terra by those who worked on it, had been conceived after humanity's entrance into the Galactic Federation had proven to be less than advantageous. Relegated to manual labor and restricted from developing advanced technologies, humans had officially complied while secretly building something that would forever change their status in the galaxy. "If the Federation won't act," Morrison said quietly, "then we will." Dr. Amanda Foster, the lead weapons developer, stood at her workstation, reviewing the final calibrations of the main cannon system. A former pacifist who had been recruited for her brilliant mind, she still sometimes struggled with what she had created. The weapon system she had designed could destroy planets, or in this case, fleets of ships, with terrifying efficiency. She looked up as Morrison approached. "Are we really doing this, Jake? Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. 50 years of secrecy gone in an instant." Morrison nodded, understanding her concern. They had been colleagues since the project's inception. "I know. But what's the point of building this if we never use it to protect those who can't protect themselves?" Foster nodded, though her eyes revealed her inner conflict. "The weapon system is ready. Full power has never been tested outside simulations." "Let's hope the simulations were accurate," Morrison replied. Back on Earth, in the underground command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Kate Williams received Morrison's message with a heavy heart. Colonel Steve Parker stood at attention beside her desk, his military bearing unchanged despite the gravity of the moment. "Is there no other option?" Williams asked, though she already knew the answer. "Madam President, we've exhausted diplomatic channels for 50 years, Parker replied. "The Federation sees us as nothing more than strong backs and willing hands. The Vorak are committing genocide while the Federation debates procedure." Williams closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her resolve was clear. "Send the authorization. Project Titan is approved for deployment. God help us all." In the vast emptiness of space, Captain Ben Taylor's small observation vessel continued to document the atrocities being committed against the Zephyrians. As a covert human intelligence operative, he had been assigned to monitor Federation activities in this sector. What he was witnessing now would haunt him for the rest of his life. The Vorak warships, nearly 3,000 of them, hung in orbit around Zephyr Prime, like predators circling wounded prey. Their energy weapons carved molten scars across the planet's surface, while ground forces hunted down the survivors. Taylor's communicator beeped with an encrypted message. "Hold position. Assistance inbound. Morrison." Taylor checked the message twice, unsure of what assistance humanity could possibly provide against a fleet of this size. Nevertheless, he maintained his position, hidden behind one of Zephyr's small moons. The Vorak continued their assault, unaware that their actions had finally pushed humanity to reveal its most closely guarded secret. Back in the asteroid belt, Project Titan entered its final preparation phase. The massive structure, nearly the size of Earth's moon, but designed to move with the speed and firepower of a warship, hummed with power as systems came online. Chief Engineer Carter oversaw the final checks, her team working with practiced efficiency. Main power at 70% and rising, structural integrity fields holding, propulsion system ready. In the Weapons Control Center, Dr. Foster calibrated the targeting systems. The main cannon, capable of generating an energy beam powerful enough to slice through planetary crusts, was the culmination of her life's work. She remembered her younger self, the idealistic physicist who had believed that humanity's future lay in peaceful cooperation. Now, she was preparing to unleash destruction on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed from humans. "Weapons systems online," she reported, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "Targeting computers ready." On the bridge, Morrison received the reports from his various department heads. "Begin undocking procedures. Maintain asteroid camouflage until we reach the Zephyr system." The massive ship, for that's what it truly was, despite its planetary size, detached from its construction cradle with surprising grace. Thrusters fired in perfect sequence, guiding the vessel out of the asteroid's hollow interior and into open space. To any observer, it would appear that a large asteroid had somehow changed course. Unusual, but not impossible given the gravitational interactions in the belt. The advanced cloaking technology developed by Phillips and his team ensured that none of the Federation monitoring stations detected the enormous power signature emanating from within. "Set course for the Zephyr system," Morrison ordered. "Maximum speed." The helmsman entered the coordinates, and New Terra surged forward, its revolutionary propulsion system allowing it to achieve speeds that would have been impossible according to the technology the Federation believed humans possessed. As the massive ship accelerated toward its destination, Morrison retreated to his ready room. There, away from the eyes of his crew, he allowed himself a moment of doubt. What they were about to do would change the course of human history in the galaxy. The secrecy they had maintained for 5 decades would be shattered in an instant, and the repercussions would be enormous. He thought of the Zephyrians dying while the Federation debated protocol, and his resolve hardened. Sometimes, peace could only be achieved through a demonstration of power. If that was the burden humanity had to bear, then so be it. On Earth, President Williams addressed an emergency session of the Global Security Council. The small group of individuals who had been entrusted with knowledge of Project Titan. "What we are about to do cannot be undone," she said, her voice solemn. "For 50 years, we have prepared for this moment, hoping it would never come, but ready nonetheless. Today, humanity steps out of the shadows and shows the galaxy what we are truly capable of." Colonel Parker stood beside her, his face impassive. "The Vorak Empire has declared through its actions that genocide is acceptable. The Federation has declared through its inaction that it agrees. We must show them both that humanity does not." In the Zephyr system, Captain Taylor continued his grim documentation. Half of the planet's surface was now burning, the beautiful crystal cities reduced to molten slag. His sensors suddenly detected a massive object entering the system at impossible speed. "What the hell?" he muttered, adjusting his instruments. According to his readings, an asteroid the size of a small moon had just dropped out of what appeared to be some form of faster-than-light travel. Technology, the Federation insisted, was impossible for humans to develop. The asteroid moved with purpose, positioning itself between the Vorak fleet and the burning planet. Then, to Taylor's astonishment, the surface of the asteroid seemed to ripple and dissolve, revealing the unmistakable contours of an artificial structure. New Terra had arrived and shed its disguise. On the bridge of the Vorak flagship, Admiral Kresh received the reports of his sensor officers with disbelief. "Impossible!" he growled, his reptilian features contorting with rage. "Humans do not possess this technology. This must be some Federation trick." His communications officer turned from his console. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the vessel. It identifies itself as New Terra and claims human origin." Kresh barked a laugh. "Put it on screen. Let us hear what these primates have to say before we destroy them." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral Morrison standing on the bridge of New Terra. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Terra. You are ordered to cease your attack on the Zephyrian homeworld immediately and withdraw your forces. Failure to comply will result in immediate and overwhelming response." Kresh stared at the human in disbelief, then roared with laughter. "You dare to give orders to the Vorak Empire? Your species is nothing but laborers and servants. Whatever ship you have stolen or fabricated cannot stand against 3,000 Vorak warships. You will be destroyed, and Earth will be next." Morrison's expression remained impassive. "You have 5 minutes to begin withdrawal." The transmission ended, leaving Kresh fuming. "Target all weapons on that vessel. Show these humans what happens when they challenge their betters." On New Terra, Morrison turned to his tactical officer. "Status of the Vorak fleet." "They're moving to surround us, sir. Weapons charging." Morrison nodded. "As expected. Commander Phillips, open a channel to Captain Taylor." Taylor's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mixture of shock and hope. "Admiral Morrison, what is this? How did Earth build something of this magnitude without the Federation knowing?" "We'll have time for explanations later. Captain, for now, I need you to move your vessel to a safe distance. Things are about to get rather intense." Taylor nodded, his eyes wide. "Yes, sir. But what exactly are you planning to do against 3,000 ships?" Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "Show them that humanity is no longer to be underestimated." Morrison out. The Vorak fleet opened fire, thousands of energy weapons converging on New Terra. The massive ship shuddered slightly as the barrage struck its shields. "Shield status?" Morrison asked calmly. "Holding at 97%, sir," reported the tactical officer, unable to keep the note of pride from his voice. "The Vorak weapons are not as effective as our simulations predicted." Morrison nodded. "Dr. Foster, are we in optimal firing position?" "In the Weapons Control Center." Foster checked her displays. "Yes, Admiral. Targeting solution locked. Main cannon charged to 80% capacity." Morrison took a deep breath. "The 5 minutes have elapsed, and they've made their choice. You are authorized to fire." Foster's hand hovered over the control panel. In her mind, she saw the burning Zephyrian cities, the countless innocent lives extinguished by Vorak cruelty. She thought of humanity's future in a galaxy that viewed them as little more than useful animals. Her finger descended on the firing control. The main cannon of New Terra activated, a blinding beam of energy erupting from the forward section of the massive ship. The beam swept across the Vorak fleet with terrifying precision, cutting through shields and hulls as if they were paper. Ships exploded by the hundreds, then thousands, as the beam completed its arc. In less than 30 seconds, nearly the entire Vorak fleet had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kresh stared in horror at the destruction of his fleet. His vessel, positioned at the rear, had been spared the initial attack, but he knew it was only a matter of time. This is impossible," he whispered. "Humans do not possess such technology." His communications officer turned to him, panic evident in his eyes. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the human vessel." Morrison's face appeared on the screen once more. "Admiral Kresh, as you can see, we possess technology far beyond what you believed. Your genocide of the Zephyrians ends now. The remaining ships in your fleet have two options: surrender and assist in evacuation and medical efforts for the Zephyrian survivors, or be destroyed. Choose." Kresh's scales paled, his arrogance replaced by fear. We surrender." Morrison nodded. "Wise decision. Be advised that any attempt to renege on this surrender will be met with immediate destruction." The transmission ended. On New Terra, Morrison turned to his crew. "Contact Captain Taylor. Tell him to begin coordinating rescue efforts with the surrendered Vorak ships, and send a message to Earth. Operation Revelation complete. Phase 2 begins now." Throughout the galaxy, the news spread with impossible speed. Federation monitoring stations had detected the massive energy discharge in the Zephyr system. Initial reports were met with disbelief, followed by panic as the truth became clear. Humans, the supposedly primitive newcomers to the galactic stage, had just destroyed most of a Vorak battle fleet with a single weapon discharge. Emergency sessions of the Federation Council were convened. Representatives from 100 species argued over the implications, while messages poured in from planetary governments demanding protection or offering alliance with Earth. In the aftermath, New Terra remained in orbit around Zephyr Prime, coordinating rescue and reconstruction efforts. The surviving Zephyrians looked upon the human ship with awe and gratitude, while the captured Vorak vessels worked under close supervision to undo some of the damage they had caused. 1 week after what was already being called the Zephyr intervention, a Federation diplomatic vessel arrived in the system. The delegation, led by High Counselor Talana of the Andorian Confederation, requested permission to board New Terra. Morrison met them in the main conference room, accompanied by Dr. Foster and Commander Phillips. The Federation representatives tried to hide their amazement at the interior of the vessel, but their wide eyes and nervous glances betrayed them. "Admiral Morrison," Talana began, her blue skin contrasting with her formal white robes, "the Federation Council has sent us to better understand the situation." Morrison smiled thinly. "I believe the situation is quite clear, Counselor. The Vorak Empire committed genocide against the Zephyrians. The Federation chose not to intervene. Humanity did. Talana shifted uncomfortably. Yes. Well, the Council is concerned about the technological capabilities your species has apparently concealed. The Treaty of Sol explicitly limited human development of certain technologies. A treaty signed under duress, Phillips interjected. Humanity was given a choice between accepting second-class status or facing isolation. We chose a third option. Building a planet-sized warship in secret? Another counselor asked incredulously. Building a deterrent, Foster corrected. We had hoped never to reveal its existence. The Vorak Empire forced our hand. Talana leaned forward. The Council is prepared to overlook the treaty violations in exchange for shared access to your technology. Morrison laughed without humor. You misunderstand our position, Counselor. We are not seeking forgiveness for violations. We are announcing a change in status. Earth is establishing the Terran Peacekeeping Authority, effective immediately. We will no longer stand by while the Federation debates, while innocents die. The counselors exchanged alarmed glances. This sounds dangerously close to a military authority operating outside Federation jurisdiction, Talana said carefully. Call it what you will, Morrison replied. 12 more vessels of New Terra's class are nearing completion. They will be deployed throughout the galaxy with a simple mission: to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and to ensure that what happened to the Zephyrians never happens again. The revelation of additional ships sent visible shock through the delegation. Talana recovered first. The Council will need to discuss this development. Of course, Morrison agreed. You may inform them that Earth remains committed to peaceful relations with all species. We simply now have the means to ensure that peace is maintained. After the Federation delegation departed, Morrison stood at the viewport in his quarters, looking down at the devastated surface of Zephyr Prime. Reconstruction had begun, but the scars of the Vorak attack would remain visible for generations. Dr. Foster joined him, her face reflecting the same mix of pride and regret that he felt. Was this always the plan? She asked quietly. To become the galaxy's peacekeepers? Morrison sighed. The plan was to ensure humanity's survival and independence in a galaxy that was all too happy to exploit us. What we do with that power now, that's the question we all have to answer. Foster nodded. The weapon worked better than I ever imagined. Part of me wishes it hadn't. I understand, Morrison said. But remember what you told me when you joined the project? The perfect weapon is one that never needs to be fired. We had to fire it once. Now, perhaps, never again. 6 months later, the galaxy had adjusted to a new reality. The 12 new Terran peacekeeping vessels patrolled strategic sectors, their mere presence deterring would-be aggressors. The Federation, after much debate, had formally recognized the Terran Peacekeeping Authority as an autonomous entity with special status. The Vorak Empire, its military might shattered and its emperor deposed in an internal coup, had withdrawn to its core systems, its expansionist ambitions checked for the foreseeable future. Other previously aggressive species had similarly moderated their behaviors, unwilling to risk confrontation with the humans and their impossible ships. On Earth, President Williams addressed the Global Security Council for what would be her final time before leaving office. 50 years ago, our predecessors made a difficult choice: to appear compliant while secretly preparing for a day they hoped would never come. Today, we face an equally difficult choice: how to use the power we have revealed. Colonel Parker, recently promoted to oversee Earth's new defensive grid, spoke next. The other species fear us now. That fear has brought a kind of peace, but fear is a poor foundation for lasting harmony. Williams nodded. Which is why our next steps are crucial. The Terran Peacekeeping Authority must be not just a military force, but a diplomatic one. We must show the galaxy that our strength comes with wisdom and restraint. Aboard New Terra, now permanently stationed in the Zephyr system as both protector and symbol. Admiral Morrison prepared to relinquish command. After 30 years leading the project and seeing it through to its revelation, he had decided it was time for new leadership. As he packed his personal items, a communication arrived from Dr. Foster, who had returned to Earth months earlier to head the new Galactic Humanitarian Technologies Division. "Jake," her message began, "I thought you'd want to know that the medical regeneration technology we developed for New Terra's crew has been successfully adapted for Zephyrian physiology. The crystal regrowth treatment is working. They may be able to rebuild some of their architectural heritage after all." Morrison smiled. This was what he had hoped for, that the technologies developed for war could be repurposed for healing. He finished packing and made his way to the shuttle bay, pausing for one last look at the bridge that had been his home for so many years. Commander Phillips was there, recently returned from a diplomatic mission to the Federation capital. "The Council has ratified the new security protocols," Phillips reported. "No species may develop planet-killing weapons without oversight from the Terran Peacekeeping Authority and the Federation jointly." "And they've agreed to this?" Morrison asked, surprised. Phillips smiled grimly. "They've seen what one of our ships can do. They're not eager to find out what 12 can do if provoked." Morrison nodded, understanding the unspoken reality. Peace through strength was not the ideal he had once believed in, but it was the reality they now lived with. And the Zephyrians. Recovering. Their ambassador will be joining the Federation Council next month, with full voting rights. As Morrison's shuttle departed from New Terra, he watched the massive vessel recede in the viewport. What they had created was both miracle and monstrosity, salvation and threat. Its very existence had forced a new balance of power in the galaxy, one that, for now at least, favored peace. In the darkness of space, New Terra continued its silent orbit around Zephyr Prime. The weapon that had never been meant to be fired had been fired once, and in doing so had rewritten the rules of a galaxy that had underestimated humanity for too long. The humans, who had been dismissed as mere laborers, had revealed themselves as master builders. The species that had been relegated to the edges of galactic politics now stood at its center. The peacekeepers who had been denied the tools to keep peace now possessed the ultimate tool. And the galaxy, whether it liked it or not, would never be the same again. In the years that followed, humanity continued its careful balance of power and restraint. The Terran Peacekeeping Authority expanded its mandate beyond mere military deterrence, establishing humanitarian and diplomatic corps that worked alongside its formidable warships. Dr. Foster's technologies, originally designed for destruction, found new applications in healing damaged worlds and species. Commander Phillips established a new intelligence network that prevented conflicts before they could erupt into violence. And throughout the galaxy, species that had once looked down on humans now looked to them, some with fear, others with hope, but all with newfound respect. The massive ships that had been built in secret became visible symbols of a new order, one in which the strong protected the weak, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. It was not perfect. It was not the peaceful integration into galactic society that some had hoped for. But as Admiral Morrison reflected in his memoirs, completed shortly before his death, 15 years after the Zephyr intervention, "We built New Terra, not because we wanted to rule the galaxy, but because we refused to let the galaxy rule us. In revealing our strength, we found not just power, but purpose. And in that purpose, perhaps, lies the hope for a truly lasting peace." In the vastness of space, New Terra and its sister ships continued their vigilant watch, reluctant guardians of an enforced peace that, imperfect though it might be, gave hope to countless species who had never before known life without fear. The humans, who had been underestimated, had become the humans who could not be ignored. And the galaxy, for better or worse, adjusted to the new reality they had created.